All right. Well, there we hit record. You may or may not know. You probably do know because you're seeing this. And we will figure out what are we doing today. So let's see. We got some ideas here. Did we skipped the off the rails, right? We didn't do that one yet. How do you know
Um,
things are off the rails?
read the room and um, demo and feedback. So no, we skipped that one. I threw a couple more out there, and we also had getting valuable feedback. So I
Yeah,
might have the rails.
valuable feedback, right? Or we did just how to demo. Was that
Yeah, we
it?
did have a demo and reading the room.
Okay. So some ideas I got is am I off the rails, getting valuable feedback, self-doubt, learn to overcome adversity and such, imposter syndrome, never leaves, now what? Um,
Two new are kind of what I was facing this weekend.
yeah, I'm thinking be an interesting combo to do, like maybe start with am I off the rails and then imposter syndrome, basically. God, off the rails is like a what are you thinking on that one? Because I could see that going a couple different directions.
Well, your business is off the rails, be it finances, like maybe it's your project, maybe it kind of goes around the idea of focus. It's like you're being pulled in too many different directions. You're not able to fully complete one, and therefore, like you're not touching everything, so things aren't working. Like things are in chaos.
Okay, so too much chaos and trying to figure out how to exist in that situation, basically, and how to get out of it.
Yeah, kind of like what we've talked about recently around tickets and stuff like that. How to like refocus, how to get back on track when you're off the rails.
Okay, give that a shot. So let's see. So I want to do. So we're gonna do it off the rails.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's just one of those that could go so many different directions. I want to make sure we're sort of in the same thing. So okay, imposter syndrome. Oh, let's see. Uh, all right. Sorry.
No, that's fun.
Like making myself some notes, thinking through what I'm gonna trying to get ahead of myself a little bit here. I know that is like wrong. I should just do it all off the cuff, but all right. Get this stuff. I've got, and also I've like adjusted my little workspace now. So like now I've got like I've pulled back a little bit more. I've got a keyboard mouse thing instead of directly off the laptop. So and then Natalie got a collapsing full. It's a full keyboard that's a collapsible one, and a mouse that's got a nice little like, I don't know, maybe 8-inch wide like case. It almost looks like a like you've seen the Steam Deck case or some of the hard shells they use for the switches, something like that. It's just a nice little one, and it's so far seems pretty good. I think she was going to use it for the first time tonight, so see how that works for it. She decided she's go with her regular full size keyboard today.
Nice.
All right, got my sip done. There we go. And we'll do a little 3, 2, 1. Well, hello and welcome back. I'm going to do that again because you might not like how I did that for the edit. Well, hello and welcome back. Maybe a second time if you're seeing this. Otherwise, if you're in the podcast, thank you so much for being here. This is the Developer Podcast. This is Building Better Developers. This is the Building Better Business season. I am just me, not building anything better right now, but I am Rob Broadhead. I am one of the founders of Building Better Developers, Developer Podcast, also a founder of RB Consulting, where currently, maybe related to our conversation later in this topic, my website is off the rails. That's what happens when you start messing around with a couple of themes and you get lost in a rabbit hole and you're just like, you know what? in for a penny, in for a pound. I've gotten into this thing. And so now I'm doing some revamping and stuff like that. More importantly, we are a boutique, what they call a boutique consulting company, where we have a very, we have a niche that we work with, and it is you are a customer. We sit down with you, talk to you about the business, how your business works, what's your secret sauce, what are the special things, the things that make you unique, and then we craft a unique recipe for your technology, for your plans going forward. Now, that may include, and often does, simplification, integration, automation, innovation. We take that technology sprawl that you have and that big, sometimes very scary investment amount that you put into technology, both for the services, the systems, and the teams, and help you craft a roadmap for moving forward so that you're in a great position today and in the months and years ahead to make the most, to leverage the ROI that you get on your investment in technology. Good things, bad things. This time around, good thing is that, and these are again sort of related. Good thing is that we decided that because we're in a sort of new part of town, we would go to a new place that is it's a Japanese hot pot restaurant, basically, is what it is. And so, brand new to us. I had never been at anything like this. Wife had been, I think, to a couple similar, but not this particular one. Turned out to be perfect. It was a nice, lengthy, hanging out, chill, have a little sake, have a bunch of lots of different food, and just sort of, cook it as you go. We have a little hibachi kind of grill there, so we could throw stuff on there. And then we had our hot pot steam stuff. Awesome. Great place. I'll even throw out the name. It's called Shabu Shabu. So if you were ever in Nashville, check them out. It's a really good place. You could say I sent them, and they'll be, who the hell is he? So actually, they'll say that in Japanese, and unless you understand it, you won't know that. They'll just probably say, thank you very much for letting us know about him. Oh, so the downside to that, before I get too much off the rails, see, there's like a theme going here, is that part of the reason that we went was, well, one, it was Cinco de Mayo, and we did not want to go anywhere Mexican because it was going to be a madhouse. Part of the reason that it actually worked out pretty well is that the bad thing is that work has been going later and later and later for quite a while now. It's just one of those things. The workday didn't end until, I don't know, 7 o'clock at night, something like that, after actually a fairly early start. And so, those things are just like, that's the bad part about it. It's sort of good when you end up, getting projects done and making money and all that kind of fun stuff. But it's sort of, rough when you have to like jam all your dinner and fun time together in a very short period of time before you're like, all right, I got to go to bed, go to sleep, get up and rinse and repeat. Just like we do every episode, we are going to rinse and repeat. I do an introduction, and then Michael is now going to introduce himself.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Meloche. I'm also one of the co-founders of Building Better Developers, also known as Developer. I'm also the founder of a company called Envision QA, where we build software tailored to meet the unique needs of healthcare professionals and small to mid-sized e-commerce businesses. We do this through similar practices like Rob mentioned, through automation, innovation, but we also take a look from the lens of a QA, from the user. We walk through your business and help understand how it works, and if your software is working for you. And if it's not, we can build you a tailored solution or find something that fits the needs of your business. Good thing, bad thing. It's kind of a mixed bag this week. It's both good and bad. I'll start with the bad. So the bad, I have been overwhelmed with work, which is kind of good, but a little bad because like Rob, working many early to late nights, and kind of got stuck on, sorry, kind of got stuck on a ticket, kind of got stuck in my head, and kind of goes to the topic we're going to be talking about today. It kind of went off the rails, but with that came the light. I've actually made a lot of improvements, got really focused, and have been knocking things out.
Wow, it is off the rails all over. I did not realize I was on mute, but it was not a very incredibly good piece of wisdom I was sharing anyways. So speaking of off the rails, we want to talk, and I roll this back a little bit and talk about what is off the rails. It can mean a lot of different stuff. And what we're going to sort of focus on this time is what happens when you get essentially overwhelmed. there's too much chaos, too many things going on, a little bit maybe getting in a rut, but it's a little bit more of like, it's closer to like the spinning your wheels kind of thing, of like where you just feel like you're working your butt off and you're just not making progress. Sometimes it's just like going into pure firefighting mode. A lot of times that's what we end up doing. And we're going to talk about like why that is not the way to handle it. Now, let's like dissect this a little bit because that's where we're going to come to the solution for this, or at least the recommendation we have. If you don't like it, feel free to pick your own because these situations pop up on a regular enough basis. That's just part of owning a business. That's part of doing development. Is, things will go really good, and then there's always some little, sand in the Vaseline or whatever it is. There's a monkey wrench. There's something out there that turns our smooth running, machine organization processes into something that is not so much. Now, usually the problem is in the overwhelm and the chaos kind of thing is that it's more than we can handle. I mean, that's typically when we feel like we're drowning, it's because we have too many things going on. Or I guess it could be you don't have a lot going on, but the things are not, there's no progress being made on it. But again, that goes back to usually that's because you're not able to focus either on the problem or maybe on the project or whatever it happens to be. So in the simplest form, what is happening is we just have too much. If we've got a consumption rate of, let's just pick a number. If we've got a consumption rate of like 1 per minute and we're getting something each minute, then we're going to be fine. But now if we're suddenly having 2 incoming per minute and we can only consume 1 per minute, well, we're going to end up getting overwhelmed. And so that's why, as I said earlier, okay, I'm just going to try to get everything done actually doesn't work and actually makes things worse. It's almost a panic response because what happens is we're saying we're getting overwhelmed, we're getting too much stuff coming at us. And so we're going to try to address everything to reduce it. And that's really not going to help us because what we're going to end up doing is we're going to spread our focus basically. And now that, usually what's going to happen is that if we were consuming 1 a minute, now we're going to go to 1 every 2 minutes or something like that because we're now having to deal with like the cost of switching gears, of sort of setting one thing down and picking something else up. It really does. It brings to mind if some of you may not even remember this, but it would be the old Lucille Ball situation where they're sitting there and they're trying to like, basically put frosting on cookies and they start coming and there's more and then more and then more. And then the next thing you know, it's just complete chaos. That's sort of what we run into. And I think a lot of the times what it is that and this is going to again get to a little bit to the solution is that we put ourselves in a situation where there's too many inputs. There are too many things that we're allowing to get on our radar. There's a classic, if you go back, and I think he still does it, John Lee Dumas, Entrepreneurs on Fire, talks about focus. I think it is, basically it's focus on one thing until that thing is done. And then you move on to the next thing. And that will allow us actually to move more quickly through whatever it is we need to move through. Now, granted, this is the thing where I think you have to just accept that life is life sometimes. Granted that if you're getting overwhelmed, there may be something because you focus on this one to get it done. There may be something else that now has moved on or, is lost or broken or something like that because you weren't able to focus on that as well, which usually we're going to say, crud, I should have focused on that. But the thing is that when you try to focus on everything, you end up focusing on nothing. Nothing gets complete. And now instead of one thing going by, everything goes by. And that is how we're going to find a way to get to organizing our chaos. But before I get any further than that, we're going to take Mr. Organized Chaos himself, Michael. And what are some of your thoughts on this?
So I'll start out with an old TV show, Lucy, and the chocolate conveyor belt, where the chocolates came out and she had to start stuffing them down her shirt and everything because they were coming out so fast she couldn't box them. That is definitely a good example of off the rails. Typically, off the rails, it can come in waves. Usually, this isn't something that just happens overnight. It can if natural disaster happens or something is literally on fire. But as Rob mentioned, typically what happens when we're off the rails is we've got too much on our plate. We have too much to focus on. We're being pulled in too many directions. One of the traps that I constantly run into, and I hear other people say it a lot, they're like, oh, I'm great at multitasking. Well, that could be a true statement if those tasks are small tasks that only need like a minute or two to do and you can easily change focus on. But typically, when you multitask, if you're trying to multitask on two heavily complex projects or complex problems, it's not going to be easy. You could be spending an hour on one project, you shift to another, you may have to spend 5-10 minutes to get back up to speed, and vice versa. So multitasking has a high cost to it if you're dealing with large or complex tasks. Um, One of the other things that is interesting with off the rails, and typically a lot of us don't notice it until we're deep into it, but one of the things I run into is when I have too many things to focus on, my mind, while I'm working on a task, is starting to drift to those other tasks. It's like, oh, is this more important? Oh, is this more important? Am I really on task for what I need to do? And it gets frustrating. It gets really struggling. And sometimes you don't know for like a day or two if you are stuck doing this. Or you could be weeks into this and you are like really off the rails and you've got so many things on fire, you don't know where to begin. If you are a business owner, this can be devastating to your business because you could have very angry customers, projects could not be getting complete, you could be missing deadlines, or it could just be costing you money. You could actually unintentionally, because you're off the rails, you could have your developers or your employees off the rails. You could be assigning tasks that don't need to be worked on right now, and you're basically getting them off task. You're basically having them work on things that they don't need to be working on. So before I get into some solutions or my ideas for how to handle this, what are some of yours, Rob? Let me pass this one back to you and we can kind of bounce this one back and forth.
I think there's the overwhelm definitely comes to mind from a business point of view. I think as you said that sometimes I guess I'll just point it this way: is I think sometimes it sneaks up on you. I think it is. It's one of those, and especially as a business owner, I think this is where our biggest danger is. Essentially, is because we sort of have things going along roughly smoothly, but what happens is typically now we're like, for example, let's say we're on a steady growth lane for our company, so we're doing a little more business, a little more products, a little more service, whatever whatever it is that you do, you're getting more and more of it. And there's a certain point where there's always going to be like a chunk, like a gear change or something like that. Within a business, it's usually things like you get to a certain point and then you need to hire somebody else or bring on a service or offset some stuff in some way, form, or fashion so you can continue to grow. And I think that's one of the more dangerous things that we can have as a business owner is that we're going along and it feels right because we're growing, we're doing a little better. It could be like, for example, let's say you started out and your business kept you busy 20 hours a week and then 22 hours a week and then 24 hours a week and then 30 hours a week and then 35 hours. And then the next thing you know, sort of, and I'll put that in quotes, the next thing you know is that you're now working 100 hours a week. Now, it's not a big change from what you were doing last week or the week before or the week before that. And this goes to where Michael's comment sort of like, where your comment really reminded me of or triggered that in me. It's like a lot of times that's what it is that you sort of drift almost into this mode because you're getting more and more, and you're sort of doing it. But then I don't think we realize that it's essentially costing us more, that we are maybe don't have as much time to refresh. We're not as, don't have the same energy. We don't have the same resource or something like that. We're starting to drain our resource pool. It's almost like you think about it literally like a pool. If you're pouring water in one end and it's sucking out on the other, it's fine unless you suddenly are pouring a lot more water in. And the next thing you know, it's flooding and going over. And so I think that's having a sort of like a pulse or a heartbeat check or a sanity check or something like that of like, okay, how am I doing on a regular basis is one of the things that we can look at as a way to sort of avoid it. Now, I think along the lines of the getting things done, the GTD approach, where he says, every week you come in, basically it's every week. You have a little bit of time where you look at your week. What did you get done? What do you want to get done next week? Things like that. That kind of a weekly check-in allows you to maintain some perspective on what am I doing? Is this more than I did last week? Is it less? And in either case, is this now trending towards something that I need to be concerned about? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a very good point because especially our energy, everyone's energy is different. And as we start stretching ourselves thin or we work more hours, those anything little that detracts from that means we got to work more. So like you said, we have less energy, and that happens a lot. For a while you can chug that caffeine and you're good, but after a certain point, too much caffeine in your body is not a good thing. I can attest to that. I'm almost off caffeine completely now because I've abused it for too many years. One of the things when I figure out that I'm in that firefighting mode or when I'm overwhelmed, sometimes you don't see it. Sometimes someone has to point it out to you. It's like, hey, are you all right? Or are you getting things done? Or you need to just stop and say, pick one thing, get it done. It might not be the right thing, but it's something. Typically, what I like to do in these, or what I try to do in these situations, is I'll go back to my little list. Because usually when I'm off the rails, I'm not doing my list. I'm dealing with emails, dealing with tickets, dealing with whatever is in front of me, not sticking to my list. And that's the first thing I'll do. The second thing I'll do, which I've done recently, again, is turn off all the distractions. Turn on those do not disturb apps, turn off the apps, turn off your phone. Sometimes, even when things are on fire, you have to do that. You have to pick a lane and pick a communication point. If you have a business and you have a customer that is unhappy, they have your phone number. They can pick up the phone and call you. Your phone, in that situation, your phone is your only tool that you are going to use as a distraction. If they call you, you answer the customer, see if you can address the problem now, get them off, finish the task that you're on. Try not to task creep. The other thing I've really had to do recently is I've literally turned off email. I've turned everything. I won't even open these apps anymore. They are off for the next few days till I get caught up on things because I've had so many things going on. I'm running to a deadline and something's not getting done. So I'm putting all my time and effort to that one thing and nothing else. I've turned off music. I've turned off anything that could potentially be a distraction. Unfortunately, I can't mute my dogs, but I've muted everything else possible and basically created a quiet place to work. Now, for some people, quiet isn't a good thing. Quiet can actually be a distraction because your thoughts will drive you nuts. You could be one of those overthinkers, which leads to this kind of overthinking, critical, off the rails kind of issue. As I go off the rails here, it's one of those things though that you do have to be cautious of. So all I can say is look at your environment. Eliminate anything that is a distraction. If literally you have got a big monitor and you have a lot of things open, pull out your laptop if you have a laptop. Go back to your laptop, and that forces you to a smaller screen to have fewer things open, fewer things up, and then that will force you to work on what you need to be worked on, or at least what's in front of you. And those are just some of the suggestions I have. The other thing is get some sleep. When we get off the rails, I find this personally, sleep becomes a problem. Even if I do get 8 hours of sleep, I'm still thinking about work in my sleep. That is another strong indicator that you are off the rails, overworked, overwhelmed, or you have too many tasks. Because if you're thinking about when you're sleeping, you're definitely task creep. You have too much on your plate. Eliminate and reset. What are your thoughts on that, Rob?
I think that's really what it is think of it as like a car that's been revved too far. That's sort of because that's sort of what you're doing is you've gone beyond you're redlining yourself essentially. And so if you're in a car that's overheating or something like that, one of the things you do is you reduce the speed, maybe take your foot off the gas for a while, let it coast, let it cool, things like that. And that's really what we can do as well is instead of pushing harder to get more done, is sometimes it's going to be better. It seems counterintuitive, but it is actually better to cut back a little bit, go back to a more sane schedule, and then focus on one thing and get it done. Now it's like the evil villains often you'll see in a movie where they like make the hero choose between one or another. And usually what would happen is if some of the movies, the hero manages to get them both anyways and everything's good. A lot of times they choose one and the other one is a loss. But if you try to do both, usually you're going to end up losing both. And so it's hard to accept that loss, but sometimes it's like you need to take the L and move on. Take the loss. Okay, I'm not going to get that done. And then now I can focus though, but I've freed that up so I can focus on the things that should be more important. You're going to take your high priority is not what you're going to give up. Your lower priority things are the things that you push out of the way. And that is sort of a little bit to Michael's no distractions. It's like finding a way to take the things that are starting to suck up too much of your time and find a way to simplify those down, reduce those so that now you can focus on what you need to focus on, get a completion, get a win. You get a little bit of usually you're going to get a little bit of an energy boost because it's like, hey, I got that thing done. And now you can move on to whatever your next thing is, which is different from I worked a little on two things. Yeah, I made some progress, but neither one of them is done. So now it's actually a negative because I didn't get it done. And now I'm worrying about it yet another day. And this goes to things like it affects your health and things like sleep because you're going to end up worrying about it. Now you wake up in the middle of the night. You're like, all right, got to get up, got to work on this thing. And so now you're working when you're already tired, you're not very productive, and you're not getting any sleep. So you're choosing, that's bad decision after bad decision after bad decision in this play. Now, solution wise, like I said, it comes down to simplify. And Michael probably gave us I think the easiest, simplest solution is let's get back to a list. What am I going to get done? And you could start this today, tomorrow. If you're overwhelmed right now, you could get up tomorrow morning and say, okay, I'm not going to worry about everything that's like overwhelming me. Those are problems for another day. I'm going to figure out what can I get done today or what do I want to focus on today? Then you build a list and it needs to be reasonable. Don't put 4,000 items on your list. Make something that like, you can basically get it done in whatever a normal day was. I would actually say if you're being overwhelmed, actually go a little shorter. Be much more pessimistic. If you think you can normally get 4 things done, don't go beyond 3 things on your list. And this goes back to the whole, we've talked about this before, the eat the frog approach is take the thing that is the one you really don't want to do, but need to get done. Maybe it's the one that's the most scary and put that at the top of your list. Go to that one first. Focus on thing you don't want to do first, because now you get even extra bonuses because when you're done, you get to say, at least I'm done with that thing that was scaring me that I didn't want to do. And a lot of times too, if there was some sort of an overthinking or anxiety around it, you get done and you're like, oh, it really wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Now it could be, sorry, life's like that sometimes, but sometimes it's not. And a lot of times, actually, it's not because we make things bigger than in our head than they usually are. So once you get that done, now you've got like that extra bonus of I got something done. I got something I don't want to do off my plate. And now I get to go on to something that I do want to do. You may even want to do like a little alternating thing is take something you really don't like on the list and then go to something you really want to do on the list and then something you don't like, keeping it short, of course, but focusing on I want to just like get through this is a list I'm going to do. And the first couple of times you do it, you get to the end of your day or you get to the end of that list, stop. Don't keep going. Don't add to the list. Don't keep, piling in. Now, I guess if you knock all your items out in 5 minutes and you've got a whole day, fine. Add 3 or 4 more. But you want to keep it simple. You want to keep it so that you have bandwidth to 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 work with this stuff now that you have some time to think, you have some time to regenerate, you have some time to relax. The challenge this time around is wherever you're at, do like a quick assessment. Do something along the lines of how am I feeling? Where am I at? Check in with yourself. How were you last week? Maybe even do like a little journal, little note, something like that, and say, okay, well, here's how I feel this week, so that you can then next week compare and give yourself sort of a running tally of how am I doing? How are things going? Did I were my days longer? Were they shorter? Things like that. There's a lot of things that can come into play that can wear you down. And I think doing this check-in will help you quite a bit. Another thing that will help you quite a bit and give you all sorts of endorphin rushes is to send us an email at info@developreneur.com. You can also check us out on X at Developreneur. Facebook, we have a Developreneur page, developreneur.com. We've got tons and tons and tons of content. We have a back catalog of all of our blog episodes. You can check us out on the Developreneur channel on YouTube, and we've got years and hundreds of episodes of that as well, between podcast episodes, interviews, mentor sessions, training sessions. We got a lot of stuff out there. That being said, we're going to wrap this one up. So go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time. All right, bonus material.
So one of the things I thought of as we were wrapping up was we talked about, what to do to try and reset to get off the rails. One of the things that I found was actually detrimental to helping me get off the rails was when I'm off work. When I put down work and step away, I'm still thinking about work, but it is compounded if I do things that are critical thinking or heavy thinking tasks after I've had a hard work day. For instance, it could be a hobby, it could be a book, it could be a TV show that's you really get into it and you're stuck thinking about it when you're done watching it. It could be a video game. For me, I love roguelike games, and I found that playing the Darkest Dungeon when I am under a heavy load of work or a lot of tasks to do, or if I'm off the rails, so to speak, or I'm working long hours, I found that it was actually stress inducing. It actually caused more stress on top of my already stressed out state, making things worse. So, whatever you do when you are off the rails, when you're in this state of mind, try to find something that takes you out of that does not add to your current state of mind and keeping you kind of pressed down, keeping you thinking about work and, making you multitask when you shouldn't. Make sure that you just stay on task.
Yeah, this is one where I'm preaching to myself here. Is along with that is get away. Get away from your work, especially now, as Michael said, the notifications are, depending on where you're at. Like for myself, I've worked remote, full-time remote for a long, long time. And so work is always available to me. I could always sit down and I can always do work, which is sort of nice because you don't have a commute, but it sucks because then you can instantly be sucked back into work. I've had it happen way too many times. And that is where there are things like, okay, instead of, sometimes it's like, it's not necessarily the general scheme of things what you want to do, but it'll be stuff like, all right, I'm going to actually go out to eat instead of eat at home, because if I eat at home, if I'm making dinner, the next thing I know, I'm going to be reading an email, I'm going to burn something, or I'm going to like take forever. There's a lot of stuff that can happen. Same kind of thing as like maybe entertainment stuff. So if it's like they will say, don't do stuff in your bedroom that's not related to sleep because it makes it harder to sleep. Same thing as don't have your fun. Like if you have whatever, like a man dungeon or, something like that. Or if you have a game room that also happens to be your work room, you're going to end up flipping back and forth too much between them. You're going to be doing your games, and the next thing you know, you're going to be off doing emails and doing your work. And for me, it's very challenging because a lot of the things I like to do are the same kinds of things that I get paid to do, which is really cool. Except, as Michael said, you have to be careful because next thing you know, you've been draining yourself everywhere. And that one actually becomes even a little more insidious because you're doing stuff you like. And the next thing you know, you've just switched a little bit. So now you're not doing the stuff you like, you're doing the work stuff, and you have managed to drift right back into the things that you don't need to be doing. So be very intentional about separating the work, the hard thing, whatever the thing is that's draining you from the things that you can go do to, energize you. And a lot of times this is so like notifications, feel free to shut off all notifications because that is one of the things that I think more than anything will help you out. I have done this. I've been going through, I'm almost in of a 40-day digital fast essentially, which is obviously I'm like, it'd be like a food fast where I'm still eating cheeseburgers daily almost, but it's like, it's my version of it. But one of the things I've done, shut off all those notifications. It has made a world of difference. A simple thing I'll throw out here, and then we'll wrap this one up because we could go all day on this, um, is wherever I go, if I have to take my phone, I'm like, I'm one of those people, I don't have an alarm clock. Yes, I should go buy an alarm clock, but I don't have one. So I use my phone to wake up. When I drive, I use my phone for GPS and music and stuff like that. But what I've gotten so I do is wherever it is, I put my phone away so I can't see it. It's like in a drawer, it's like in a bag or something like that. So it's not very accessible. And that includes like if I could, if I'm walking around instead of carrying my phone in my wallet or my pocket, then maybe I'll throw it in my backpack or something like that to just put a little more distance between me and that thing that's going to distract me. If you've got a wearable of any sort, then that is probably the worst thing. Take your watch off, turn off notifications, whatever you need to do, go to do not disturb. Those things will just drive you nuts. And the next thing you know, you're going to wake up in the middle of the night. And I've had this before I got everything cleaned up on some of my notifications because, some email came in that you really didn't care about. There's a junk mail that already, you don't even see it. It's already been moved on, but you got the notification and it woke you up before, the systems took care of it. There's things like that. Just beware. And when you want to get a break, make sure that you do everything in your power to ensure that you will get a break. Right now, we're going to ensure that you will get a break from us because we're going to wrap this episode up. As always, we would love to hear your feedback wherever you give it to us, whether it's out on the podcast, wherever you consume podcasts, if it's out on YouTube, if it's out on the Developreneur site, social media, however you can reach us. We would love to hear from you. Suggestions, comments, jokes, you name it. We will take it, we will digest it, and we will find a way to use it to build a better podcast. That being said, go out there and have yourself a great one, and we will talk to you next time.